Welcome back to the Cool Comic Show. I am one of your hosts, Damien, and with me, as always, is Q Man Bean, aka Q Man, aka Q My Boo. Sadly, not with us today is Jelani Carter, aka Jelani Hendricks, aka Jelani with the Body, and also X_X Generic, aka Generic, aka E. Let's say they partied too hard. Let's call it that. But
I can confirm he was here yesterday.
no, yeah, E. Go ahead.
He was.
You guys had a good time. Listen,
he was hydrated.
we're not going to expose, but E did visit Q in his undisclosed location. Jelani got a new. I'll let him post a picture. I'm not going to put it in the video, but Jelani got a new look. I don't want to leak it before he shows it off, and I think he celebrated and enjoyed himself. But it's all good because this month we don't have too much news to go over. If you are unfamiliar with our main show, every month we will kind of recap some of the recent news in movies and TV, comic books, and video games. And as I mentioned, there's not a lot too much to go over, but there is a couple of big things. So this one might be a little bit of a shorter episode this month for April. Also, at the time of this recording, we are recording this on March 30th, which is a Sunday. There is rumors or reports of a potential new Superman trailer, aka a lot more Superman news that might be coming out this upcoming week because of CinemaCon happening. So by the time this video goes up, because it goes up on the first Saturday every month, this video is going to go up on Saturday, April, 5th? So by the time you're watching this, that Superman news might have already happened, but we're recording before that news, but we'll add something in here for that. In any case, yeah, we have a couple of things to go over for this month. Starting off with movies and TV. So there wasn't too much before last week. We were kind of writing down topics to talk about. There wasn't a lot. And then Marvel decided to have a 5-hour stream to announce a 30-second video.
Brother.
So
were you seated the whole time?
No, I was at work. I was like, I'll just see it at the end. But yeah, Marvel did announce the cast for Avengers Doomsday. So before we get into all the names on here and names who weren't on there, there has been a lot of discussion about this whole thing in general already. People talking about like, them spoiling stuff for the Thunderbolts movie and people that are in here, and people talking about like, there's too many characters or why is that? And it's just like, it's an Avengers movie. It's Doomsday. The discussion's already been kind of done a lot of like them using Doctor Doom in general. We've already talked about it on here how we feel about it. We're not super excited about how they're going to do it, but I do think this is big news because this is the first Avengers movie. This is the first Avengers movie since Endgame. So it's like, right. I'm very curious because, and especially with this cast list, before this cast list got announced, I was very curious of like what characters are they going to focus on, because up until this point there hasn't really been like a core central group. So let's get into the list real quick. So we'll start with we'll kind of do this in sections. Well, I'll talk about the ones, or I'll just kind of list the ones we knew about, and Q, if you have any specific thoughts about each of these people, feel free to stop me. So the people we knew that was going to be in this movie was Chris Hemsworth as Thor. And looking at this list, he's the only original Avenger who's in this movie right now. And we're doing this in order what they announced. I can't say his name. Chris Hemsworth as Thor.
Crims
Hemsworth. And then surprisingly, the second announcement, the person they made is Vanessa Kirby as Invisible Woman. Obviously, we know she's not going to die in the Fantastic Four movie, but it's like, oh, okay. Like, that's your second kind of headliner. Pretty interesting. Anthony Mackie as Captain America, which, again, another character we kind of assumed was going to be in here. Sebastian Stan as Winter Soldier, which is kind of surprising, I feel like. Letitia Wright as Shuri, and then Paul Rudd as Ant-Man. That's the first section. I think these are characters we kind of assumed would be in this movie. But Q, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that first little chunk.
Yeah, I mean, you would think some of the, some of those first names are gonna be, your anchoring cast, recurring Avengers. Seeing a list of characters that we're still not completely, we still haven't fully established like where they land.
Yeah. One
Like,
character we
where
don't even
they
know
are.
what her story is. Invisible Woman. We don't know what's gonna happen. Like
Yeah.
it's just very interesting.
Yeah, there are definitely, for comic book lovers or those who have read Secret Wars, I'm seeing Vanessa Kirby's. It's exciting.
Yeah.
You kind of can anticipate that she's gonna play a pretty, sizable role, or
Yeah.
just the Fantastic Four in general. But yeah, the kind of the fragmented Avengers casting is it's got me. It's giving. it's giving cameos.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. When we get to the bottom of this list, 100%.
Yeah. So.
But no, I agree with you. Where I think, and again, this is already part of a larger discussion of the makings of this movie in general. Like,
yeah,
the fact that we're getting the Fantastic Four as you assume prominent players in this, and they haven't even had their movie out yet. Like, it's very, I don't know. But so I imagine that might be kind of like not our core six, but that's going to be like the main bigger players, those first six.
Yeah.
This next chunk, I'm going to go through a large amount. These are characters that have been supporting characters or a couple of villains in Marvel movies in the past, but they haven't necessarily been the main character, most of these. And I'm going to stop at a specific part. So actually, I'm also going to skip one person in here too. So after those first six, we have Wyatt Russell, who's returning as U.S. agent. He was in the Captain America Winter Soldier show, which I feel like it was a very good show. We have my boy returning as Namor. I was actually very curious if he was ever going to return in an Avengers movie or in another Black Panther movie. Right. So I'll be curious what his role is going to be in this. We have the actor playing The Thing. And again, another character we haven't been introduced to yet, but he's going to be in here. It's very interesting. They spread out the Fantastic Four throughout this list, just in order. Not that the order means anything.
Right, yeah.
But it's not until number 10 we see a character that I feel like we probably should have seen more of until this point. Simu Liu as Shang-Chi. I recently rewatched that movie and I was like, this is a good movie. Like, yeah. And then after that, there's just been nothing for him. But he's going to be in here as well. We have Florence Pugh, of course, as Yelena, aka, I guess, I don't know if her name is White Widow, Black Widow, but Black Widow's younger sister in the MCU.
Yelena.
Yeah. The next one that got announced, I'm going to skip it specifically because I'm going to put it into a later part of the list. But after that person, we have, again, not really a spoiler, but kind of, the person who's going to be playing Sentry in Thunderbolts. So Sentry, I don't know if it has been confirmed as the character that's in the Thunderbolts, whatever. I know he's been kind of flashed in the trailer. But Sentry's kind of like not Marvel Superman, but kind of Superman-y in a way. But that was one of the characters people were like, oh, so there's just spoilers kind of, happening in this. But he got announced. We have Danny Ramirez as the Falcon, who, if you watch the Captain America movie, you'll see him in there. And then another Fantastic Four member, the Human Torch, will be in here. Then we have David Harbour as Red Guardian, also from Black Widow, and then also from Thunderbolts. Winston Duke as M'Baku, shout out to Black Panther. We have Hannah John Kamen from Ghost from the Ant-Man movies, and also Thunderbolts. Right. And then the last person on this list before we get to the last chunk, we have Tom Hiddleston returning as Loki. So yeah, multiple characters in this chunk where it's kind of like they've been here or there, some more than a few years ago, some in a movie that's just about to come out. So again, it's very interesting mix. I think at this point of the list, I agree with you where it's like there's a lot of cameo setups, like even before we get to this last part. That's the I feel like those are going to be all supporting characters. I don't know how much they're going to be involved, but I think that chunk will be kind of, aside from the Fantastic Four, will be kind of more supporting, which is surprising because I feel like, again, Shang-Chi should have a better or a more prominent role in some of these.
Yeah, his project kind of being as far as story goes, delineated from the rest of what's happened in this phase of the MCU. Yeah, it definitely makes his character's presence in this story like the first question mark out of those names. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what they do with it. Some of these characters, the wheels are definitely spinning. Like Loki, for instance, thinking about where Loki left off, thinking about Nexus characters, and the which we currently know Scarlet Witch to be. Wanda, I think, for this universe has been described as, like a key figure. Yeah. So what role she may or may not have, or what role Loki, just given how that show wraps up, what role he may or may not have. I'm curious to see if his role is similar to like Molecule Man's or in the like actual comic story or what have you. So we'll see how it goes.
I agree with you 100%. Like, it's just like what you can see some of the directions they could go, but also other parts where it's like, okay, what's going to happen here? Which brings me to the last section, where a lot of people were very excited. A lot of people were very against it. It's the mutants, but specifically all the mutants from the Fox universe. So the first character I skipped over was Kelsey Grammer returning as Beast. If you watch the Marvels, the Captain America 2, essentially, in the post-credit scene, Monica Rambeau kind of got transported to the Fox universe with those mutants, and he showed up in that scene. Yeah. But he'll be back. We have Patrick Stewart as Professor X, Ian McKellen as Magneto, Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romijn as Mystique, which is interesting, James Marsden as Cyclops, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and then to round it out, we did get Pedro Pascal at the end as Mr. Fantastic. So I'll start off this here first. So I love the X-Men, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen, people have said this already, I've seen Patrick Stewart die on screen as Professor X 3 times now. In X-Men 3, in Logan, and in Multiverse of Madness. And one of the big discussions when the whole Fox-Disney merger kind of happened, where people were like, okay, we kind of had our send-off to the X-Men, and they kind of had their time. Like, now let's get some time for our new actors and new characters to have their shine. Yeah. And as cool as it is to see these characters again, it's like it's rehashing some of the stuff that we've gone through already, and it's still not really showing what the X-Men is going to be in the future. I imagine the Secret Wars will kind of have a big part of that, but it's just kind of, I don't know. It's interesting that they picked this many mutants to be in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But people were very excited and people were very upset. There was a lot of different opinions I saw. Me specifically, I'm kind of like, I guess that's cool, but it would be nice to see some other X-Men characters and maybe newer actors so we can know what this. Or people were even saying like why not do the newer version of the right characters, the younger ones like James McAvoy and stuff like that, So yeah. I wonder if maybe I feel like it couldn't be a lack of interest. They're probably going in a very specific direction by bringing a majority of the I imagine they're all going to die in this movie is what I imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. And the case for Patrick Stewart is probably, I'm going to be honest, I don't have one. He died. Yeah, he died in X3. We've seen him die multiple times. I think he's tired. Yeah. I think he could use a break. So it sounds multiversal. It sounds a bit polarizing.
Yeah.
And I think bringing Channing Tatum.
Yeah, that was a whole other. People were not happy.
There's got to be a little bit of humor, and
I think the Gambit fans specifically were like, because he was treated like a joke in the Deadpool movie. Like it was kind of just like for the memes, really, and it was cool. It was funny, but I think people want like an actual Gambit.
I'm so ready to be seated in theaters waiting for him to say, "Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself." I just selfishly want to feel that again.
And you're valid. Like it's not wrong to feel that way. And I think that's why they bring some of these characters and actors back, because they know that it is going to sell tickets. And ultimately, at the end of the day, and I've said this before, like, yes, of course, we all love these characters, we all love the comic books, we all love the stories. At the end of the day, sadly enough, we do live in a society. We do live in a capitalist world, and these movie studios are trying to make the most money. Like, that's just the reality of it. And it's sad to say, but it's like they bring back all these actors, like they bring back something that So it's like,
right.
Of course people are going to go watch it, So.
Yeah. I also wonder if there is potential, just even seeing this lineup, that we run into the same issue that we did with the latest Captain America movie, where it feels more a continuation of a story that we didn't ask for, that we didn't necessarily need to move the story forward. Then a new, body of work and a fresh perspective, with where to take the MCU. So
yeah, I'd be very curious, and not
we'll
that
see.
like I don't really care about like how much money movies make, because they're gonna make a bunch of money anyways. Or people are like, oh, this movie failed because it didn't make $1 billion. But one thing I am curious about is, again, this is the first Avengers movie since Endgame. This is the first Avengers movie since people talked about MCU fatigue. They're bringing back everybody essentially. I'm just curious how much money this movie is actually going to make. Like I'm very curious,
Right.
And then of course at the end there was, Robert Downey Jr. showed up as Doctor Doom. One thing I did want to mention, so there was also a list put out of people who weren't announced in the cast for this, and there was some rumors, whatever. I guess there's going to be more announcements, whatever. But to kind of quickly go down this list, so Chris Evans, which I think he's done with Captain America. I can't imagine he's ever going to come back, really. Maybe in Secret Wars. Haley Atwell, who plays Peggy Carter. There's no Hulk. There's no Okoye. There's no Star-Lord. There's no Daredevil, which we'll talk about in a second. No Wong announcement. No Miss Marvel. No Hawkeye. No Spider-Man, which people were very passionate about what happened there. No Moon Knight. No Valkyrie. No Wasp. No White Vision. No She-Hulk. No War Machine. No Captain Marvel, which I'm actually very surprised about.
Yeah.
No Taskmaster. No Ironheart. Nick Fury. Kate Bishop. No Scarlet Witch. I know you mentioned Wanda. And then someone threw in here, no Madam Web. Shout out to her. No,
hey, free Michael.
No America Chavez, no Monica Rambeau, and no Doctor Strange. So I say the biggest things on here that I'm surprised about is Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel. Spider-Man, I'm not too surprised by, because I feel like they're trying to do something different with him now. And also She-Hulk. I would say those three characters I'm the most surprised or not.
She-Hulk seems almost like a necessity, but I don't know, maybe.
But again, we still have Secret Wars, so who knows? But that was kind of the biggest announcement, I would say, the last couple of weeks. People had a lot of varying opinions. Again, I'm just kind of like, we'll see. It is me just kind of being, I'm gonna go watch it anyways. I'm gonna go, I'll probably have a good time, and I'll probably be like, that's kind of weird, but still enjoy myself, because at the end of the day, it's moving pictures about people in superhero costumes, so I'm not going to take it too serious,
Right.
But speaking of people who weren't included, the next thing we have on our list, Daredevil's new season did premiere a couple weeks ago. I haven't caught up with it yet, but Q, I know you've been watching some of it. What are your thoughts so far into the season? It's like, what, 4 or 5 episodes in, something like that?
Yeah. I think we're 6. I've got to catch up a little bit myself. I've got they did a kind of a random 2 episodes in 1 week choice. Yeah. And I thought, this isn't the finale. And I'm pretty sure that it isn't. but the story has been, it's been good so far. There have been general concerns with how the reshoots affected the story, and the fact that, they had shot and cut a direction that, Disney XX said, we're not necessarily feeling this. And some of the pivots that we know of have been really solid choices, but I wouldn't say sad. The reality is, when you run into that problem of reshoots, when you're already well into production, you then have to find, it becomes this game of story Jenga, and you're trying to take pieces that didn't work and bring them back and reposition them so that they do, hoping that hoping it doesn't fall apart. And we get some really, really cool and emotionally charged points in the story that work so well, but then you come out of those scenes like, why? What did that have to do with anything? So I'm enjoying it. I personally, whenever I'm watching something, I feel like I rate a show based on how effectively each scene works. Yeah. And if there aren't scenes that take me out or away from the central story, I'm generally not going to have many complaints. Yeah. So I've been able to enjoy it for that reason. The obvious mistakes or things that don't work are obvious and easy to just ignore. Mm-hmm. But all in all, I'm wondering how they will land the plane, and if maybe more of the reshot footage will make for a cohesive close to the story. So
yeah, do we'll know see. How many episodes are going to be this season?
My guess was 12.
I'm looking it up right now. Season 1's going to have 9 episodes, so okay. I'll have episode 7 this week. Then episode 8 the week after. Then the finale's on the 15th of April. So the next time we record, we'll have the finale, and we'll kind of circle back and see how you feel, after it's all wrapped up and caught up and everything.
Yeah, I'm excited. So we're like around the halfway point, or just over the halfway point.
But yeah, from what I've seen, because I haven't watched it yet, but I've seen people have been mixed on it. But again, whenever I watch something, I don't really worry about what other people are saying or critics or audiences. Like I go in with my own kind of vibe. But yeah, once the finale goes, we'll come back and kind of see the overall season thoughts that you have, and Jelani as well. Mm-hmm. And then kind of the last point we have for movies and TVs is kind of a small news. Something we talked about last episode is Daniel Craig dropping out of the role for Sergeant Rock. There was some reports that Colin Farrell, aka the Penguin, is potentially taking over that role. If you guys are curious about all of our thoughts about Sergeant Rock, go ahead and watch our March episode, because to put it simply for you, we feel like other characters could get a spot to shine here. And that director as well could get other characters. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's about it for the movies and TV. Like I said, Avengers was kind of the biggest thing that came out, pending the upcoming CinemaCon, where potential more Superman trailer news, etc. might be coming out. Moving over to books. So there wasn't too many announcements as well for the books section. Just to kind of go through some of the headlines. DC Pride did announce their 2025 book for this year. A couple of covers and everything came out. That's when DC does their, for Pride Month, they do kind of a collection of different stories highlighting some LGBT characters in the DC universe. And Marvel also announced theirs as well. Interestingly enough, they did it as Ironheart / Marvel Voices as opposed to just Marvel Voices. And that will be coming out on Free Comic Book Day, which will actually be May 3rd. So those were the 2 Pride books that got announced, and we'll see kind of how those turn out. Those are usually pretty fun, kind of self-contained stories that come out every year. But speaking of Free Comic Book Day, as I mentioned, that will be coming up on May 3rd. Marvel has announced, as I mentioned, Ironheart and Marvel Voices. They have a Fantastic Four / X-Men book, and then Spider-Man / Ultimate Universe book. DC is doing a DC All-In / Absolute Universe, which is what from what I've seen, it's going to be like the main universe and the Absolute Universe kind of coming together in some kind of event. So we'll kind of see. And then DC's also doing a couple of children's books for Superman. And then, of course, as opposed to giving Wonder Woman a book, they're giving Wonder Woman's Kangaroo a book for Free Comic Book Day. So that'll be happening. There's also, of course, for Free Comic Book Day. And if you're not familiar with Free Comic Book Day, it's essentially what it is. Go to your local comic shop, and a bunch of retailers or a bunch of publishers, DC and Marvel, and a bunch of indie books, they do a free version or a free book for that day. But the idea is to get people out to the comic book shops and buy other books as well, to kind of support the industry and the cause. So that's coming up in a couple weeks. We had a new Thunderbolts series announced. The reason I put it in here, because they have an interesting team they put in here. So the new writer is going to be Sam Humphries and artist Ton Lima, but the new team of Thunderbolts is going to be Carnage, Black Widow, Wolverine, Namor, Winter Soldier, Clea, and Hulk. So I'm not familiar with Thunderbolts in general, and I'll go watch the movie and stuff like that, but I just thought it was a interesting cast of characters they're putting into it. Like, when you put Carnage anywhere, I feel like he's such a wild card, it's like, it's just funny seeing him in something.
Yeah. Nah, that lineup is exciting to see. It looks chaotic.
Yeah, that's exactly chaotic.
I'm excited to see the art because it would have to match, it'd have to match that chaotic energy for sure.
Deadpool has Deadpool has a big celebration coming up this summer for his 350th issue. They're doing a bunch of current Deadpool creators and past creators, so that'll be a fun kind of summer event that they're doing. Jonathan Hickman, there was a tease of a new series called Imperial. We just kind of got a new cover for that. Still not a lot of details, but it seems to be shaping up to some kind of big thing. Anytime Hickman is involved, you imagine it's going to be some big kind of situation. And then the last kind of news we got, DC has announced a new history of the DC universe. They've done a couple of these before. I think the first one was maybe in the 80s or the 90s. It was called The History of the DC Universe, which is essentially just going through all the history of the DC Universe and in real time kind of thing. And then they did a book called The Other History of DC Universe, which kind of put more of a focus on some of the minority characters. And that was really, that was actually within the last 5 to 10 years. That was a really cool read as well. But now they're doing a new history of the DC Universe, which will be written mostly by Mark Waid and a bunch of different artists. It's a 4-issue miniseries that takes a fresh look at the DC Universe past and present. The biggest highlight for me with this is there's an artist called Dan Mora, and he's doing a cover, or he did a variant cover for Wonder Woman, which is kind of like, he drew her like in her classic costume, a little bit more modernized, and I was like, that's the perfect design. Because there's a big discussion in the Wonder Woman fan community, I would say, of what her look should be like. People are more of a fan of like the recent look, kind of similar to the movies where it's like a battle skirt. Some people want kind of like the old swimsuit look kind of thing. So there's a lot of different discussions, but I think the way that he did it, and I'll put the cover on screen. I think it's a great design, kind of how it looks. But yeah, not like I said, not too many big highlight book announcements. But to kind of wrap up our book section, as we do every month, we'll talk a little bit about what we've been reading. Q, I know you just picked up some books. I don't know if you want to highlight some of those.
Yeah. I'm going through the big three for the new Absolute Universe. So Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. And Wonder Woman's first act of this story, you could probably describe it that way, just wrapped up. And it was great. It was it was beautiful. It was a lot of fun to read. Absolute Batman's been phenomenal, and I've really enjoyed Superman as well. I'm keeping up with The Question. I'm also keeping up with Helverine, and I've been really enjoying this Ultimate Wolverine, where he is basically the Winter Soldier and has been brainwashed and is an absolute tyrant. So that's
how many issues are out for that one right now?
I want to say 4 or 5. I can't remember if I just picked up the 5th or not. Okay. But I'm really enjoying those kind of cycling mainly through DC these days with a few Marvel joints. Yeah. What about you, man?
So I've been reading Absolute Wonder Woman. I talk about it a lot, and it just wrapped up its first arc, which was the first 6 issues. Issue 7 just came out last week, and it's amazing. Like, it's just, I've talked about this plenty of times. The thing I love about Absolute Wonder Woman is it takes that idea of like, what if these characters came up in a dark world or an evil world, whatever. And the reason I didn't really like the premise too much before is because every time that happened, they would always make Wonder Woman like an evil version of herself.
Right.
But in Absolute Wonder Woman, she's still her true self, and she's still true to her core. So it's cool seeing her like in this different version of the world, but she's still trying to bring her light to help everybody. And this most recent issue, there's some interaction with some Greek mythology characters. It's really cool and stuff like that. So I've really been enjoying that. New Gods I've been reading as well. That one's just, I think I said this when the first issue came out. I think that book, by the time it's all said and done, is going to be looked back on like very much like, wow, this is some of the best shit in a long time, just because of the science fiction, the very like theological, like, I don't know, just whole theme of everything It's like very out there, but very much like you really have to think, and like it's very cool to kind of have that, and then to have like a fun, maybe street level kind of story. Like I've been reading Batgirl, and that's also really good as well. That's been going. And then I also have like some fun stuff like Zatanna, which I've been trying to tell Q to start reading. Zatanna has 2 issues out right now, and that book is just, it's so fucking good. So
I've got both issues.
Yeah.
I need to pause time. Yeah. Honestly.
So those are the new books I've been reading. I just finished my reread of George Perez's Wonder Woman run from like the late 80s, early 90s, where it kind of like modernized her. I just finished rereading like the War of the Gods event, and it's kind of like it's crazy seeing all that crazy stuff, because that's such a big event with the whole DC universe, and like all the gods, where it's like the Greek gods, the Egyptian gods, the Roman gods, like it's just all over the place, and it's cool seeing kind of. At one point I was like, man, is Jesus gonna show up? But I just finished rereading that, and then I also I'm in the middle of my Green Arrow Longbow Hunters saga run, which is, I don't know if the book, one of the books back there, it puts these big fat big books. This Green Arrow one that came out in the 90s is kind of like a very well received run. I'm kind of in the first few issues for that one right now. But there's a lot of good like current books coming out right now, man. Like it's a good time. I did read also Absolute Martian Manhunter 1. That one was very fucking good. That one is like another kind of trippy out there kind of book. I haven't read Absolute Flash yet, but I heard that one's good. And then Absolute Green Lantern will be coming out in a couple weeks, or maybe this week. Soon it's coming out. So,
man, it's just such a great and refreshing jumping on point.
Yeah.
For hopping, back into comics, hopping into comics. There's so many original stories being told. I mean, any given week, but especially now, especially with the Absolute, the Absolute rollout. They're like 6. They're by the end of next week, or
be like 6 ongoing something.
Yeah, 6 different stories that you can dive in on. So
it's crazy.
Exciting times, yeah. Man.
But yeah, that's what we've been reading, and that's kind of our entire book section, which leads us to our last section, which is kind of a book/games thing. So video games, again, there is no DC video game news. I can't imagine we're ever going to get news on DC video games at any time right. Soon on this. But the one comic book game we still kind of playing here and there, I actually haven't played it in a while, Marvel Rivals. So it's not necessarily news about the game itself, although it is going to have a new season in 2 weeks. But Marvel Rivals did get a new one-shot comic book announced that's coming out in the summer. Not a series or anything like that. It's just going to be a 1-issue kind of thing. I guess there's some new designs and stuff like that in the game, so I might be picking that one up and checking it out. But yeah, that's about it. Like I said, this was a lighter month. I imagine as we get into the summer, we're probably going to get some more beefier news for books, some more stuff for movies and TV, especially with DC, because once Superman comes out, I imagine the second half of the year is going to be kind of a flood of information. Now that I'm talking about it, I wonder if we'll get like a Supergirl tease during CinemaCon, because that's been filming since like January. Or maybe at least her outfit reveal, probably.
Yeah.
We might get that.
Man, I'm excited for that. That's going to be great too.
Yeah, that'll be cool. But yeah, that's going to be it for this month. Again, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for vibing. Next time we see you, it'll be Free Comic Book Day. Daredevil will have been wrapped up. We'll have more information on Superman perhaps, and hopefully some more new cool books we've been checking out. But thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting every single month, and we will see you next time. Okay, bye.
All right. Okay. Yeah.